Ladies and gentlemen, you may know him from his work in Ohio Valley Wrestling. You may know him from his time on WWE SmackDown as Gunner Scott, or you may just know him as one of the best wrestlers on the independent scene today, the one and only Brent Albright. Brent, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. How are you guys?
We're great, and we're honored to have you on the show. Thanks so much for calling in. How did you first get interested in being a pro wrestler back in the day?
Oh, man, back in the day, I believe the very first time I ever body slammed my cousin on my grandma's floor, watching old WWF TV on Saturday mornings. I believe that was the first time I ever really was like, wow, I kind of like this. I must have been, 4 or 5 years old, back in the day, I started back in 1998, wrestling for a small little indie promotion in Oklahoma called Oklahoma Pro Wrestling. And, it was run out of the back of a bowling alley. I paid my little tuition to go through their school, and, went through their school 2 nights a week for about 2 hours a night. And, having a wrestling background, and being, somewhat athletic was, made it pretty easy for me to be able to pick up and understand, a little bit of what was going on with pro wrestling.
Now, as I understand it, you got some of your training from Mike Modest. He's a guy who's been around on the independents for a lot of years and been in a couple of movies about pro wrestling, but he never seems to have broken through to television like you did. So what can you tell us about Mike Modest? What's he like as a trainer?
Mike was a very, very good trainer and a very good friend. Whenever I first met Mike, we were working on a show together, and he invited me down to participate at the All Pro Wrestling boot camp in Hayward, California, and work on one of their shows. And I did. And when I got there, they told me that if I wanted to come train at their school, that they'd be more than happy to have me do so. And I was lucky enough to where they actually waived the tuition fee for me to make that possible. And I'd only had at that point in time, I really only had about 6 months in the business, which is a very critical time for a lot of young wrestlers, because the first 6 months is where you're going to pick up a lot of good habits. You're going to pick up a lot of bad habits. And luckily for me, when Mike got a hold of me, I hadn't had too many bad habits yet, and he was able to show me and teach me a lot of good fundamentals as far as what it actually, what the business is all about. So, I give a lot of credit and a lot of thanks to Mike Modest for a lot of the training I got from him.
Now, was your friendship with him and training from him part of what got you into Ohio Valley, or was that something that you worked out on your own, was going to OVW?
No, that was something I worked out on my own. In 2000, I moved to California to go train out there in January of 1999, and then in I want to say 2000, I believe it was May of 2000, I moved back to Oklahoma, and in 2002, I had my first WWE dark match, and in 2003, I made it an effort to put myself in front of WWE as much as possible. I flew myself out to a lot of shows. I drove myself to a lot of shows, and was invited to a boot camp of one of theirs in Cincinnati at Heartland Pro Wrestling when it was still a developmental territory there. And through all that, I was able to they were able to sign me to a developmental contract in 2003, at the end of 2003.
All right. Well, in your time with HWA, then you probably got a little bit of tips and advice from our good friend, the legendary Les Thatcher. What can you tell us about your experiences with him?
I like Les Thatcher. Les is a real nice guy, man. Full of knowledge. Been around the business a long, long time. he contacted me, I guess, a couple of years ago about some stuff that he wanted to do, and he said that he wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but if it did, that he wanted me to be a part of it. So, around that time, I ended up taking some time away from business, and so I don't know if Leslie's thing ever worked out or not. But the fact that he had me in mind for it, tells me what he thinks about me, and I think the world of him. He is a top-notch guy. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's very, very, very knowledgeable. I mean, you have to, when it comes down to it, guys like Les, you're just retarded if you don't listen to the advice that they have to say.
I couldn't put it better than that. So I'll transition to the next topic, and after that, I want to give my co-host a chance to ask a couple of questions as well. But one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention is that you had a rather legendary feud with CM Punk and OVW, and you got to see Punk very early on before a lot of the WWE audience got to see him. So tell us about that feud and the experience of working with him early on.
That was something. That was a feud that was really kind of that was built in the mind of Paul Heyman. Punk had come down to OVW. I believe it was around 2005, and around that time we were going through WWE was going through a management change there at OVW. And a lot of things were up in the air, and I, at the time that was going on, I was the heavyweight champion there, and ended up dropping that belt to Johnny Jeter, and was going through a feud over the television title with Kim Doan, and we brought Paul Heyman brought CM Punk into that mix, and it just brought out really good matches. It was good. It was a good pairing.
One of the keys to that feud was that Punk refused to shake your hand after a match.
Yeah, that whole thing was. I mean, the feud was really about respect. Everybody knew who CM Punk was. He was an internet darling. Everybody coming from Ring of Honor, everybody knew who he was, and we played off the fact.
All right, well, Brent, I'm going to jump in here and ask a quick question. Recently, as of yesterday, your thoughts on the passing of Bison Smith?
I'm sorry, do what?
Your thoughts on the passing of Bison Smith?
I didn't know he passed. How did that happen?
He suffered a massive heart attack in Puerto Rico.
No, I didn't. I didn't know that at all. Bison was one of those guys that I started APW with. He was already there when I showed up down there, and we worked a lot of matches together, and we trained together, and so yeah, that's news to me. That's sad. The wrestling. He was an excellent worker and a super nice guy. The world and the rest of the world just lost a really nice guy, really good guy. I'm sad to hear that.
Now, I always ask this question when it comes to pro wrestlers, and if MMA was as big as it is now, would you make the jump to MMA, or would you stick with just being a pro wrestler?
No, I'd stick to pro wrestling. I've had offers to do MMA, and I enjoy watching MMA, and I have all the respect in the world for those guys. But that's not for me. I don't have the time anymore to train like the way I would need to train to do that. Now, probably 6 or 7 years ago, maybe, but not now. I'd stick with pro wrestling.
As you look back on your career in WWE, what stands out the most to you from that experience? Like, what were you able to gain the most from that time there?
I was able to gain a lot of life experience, and being able to see the world. I mean, if it wasn't for wrestling, and working with WWE, you know, there's a lot of things that I got to see that I would have never gotten to see in you know, just in regular life. So with a regular job. So I mean, those are things that those are things that you can't take away from